In Mississauga, $850,000 buys a two-bedroom condo with a $600 monthly maintenance fee. In Northern Ontario, that exact same sum buys four detached single-family houses, two vacant building lots, and enough leftover capital to retire 10 years early. In a country where the national benchmark home price sits above $700,000, millions of Canadians have been persuaded that homeownership is a privilege reserved for the ultra-wealthy. But that story ignores thousands of square kilometers of settled land where detached homes sell for less than a new pickup truck. The paradox is simple. These properties exist, they are fully serviced, and they sit under Canadian municipal governance. What does that low purchase price actually cost you once you move in? We are counting down 15 real Canadian towns and municipalities across 5 provinces where housing costs sit up to 80% below provincial benchmarks, starting today at entry 15 and working down to the most dramatic real estate trade in the country. Before we finish this series, you will see an Alberta mountain town where century-old miner cottages sell for less than a parking space in Banff, and a remote British Columbia coastal enclave where oceanfront lots cost less than a used sedan. If you want the honest reality behind Canadian housing without the real estate agent sales pitch, subscribe to the channel right now. We begin the countdown at number 15 with the city of Elliot Lake, located in the Algoma district of Northern Ontario. Drive north along Highway 108 and you see winding asphalt cutting through Precambrian granite, dense stands of white pine, and quiet residential streets surrounding pristine boreal lakes. Elliot Lake holds a population of roughly 11,300 people, with an average home price sitting right around $195,000. That figure sits 77% below the Ontario provincial benchmark of $850,000, representing a population density of just 16 people per square kilometer. Elliot Lake was built overnight in 1955 as the uranium mining capital of the world. When the mines closed down in the 1990s, the municipality survived by executing a deliberate economic pivot, transforming its vacant mining housing into Canada's first planned low-cost retirement community. Medical needs are handled directly in town at St. Joseph's General Hospital, which operates 54 acute care beds alongside a full-time 24-hour emergency department. The city includes elementary and secondary schools, a Foodland grocery store, local pharmacies, full cell coverage, and municipally maintained winter roads. The primary drawback here is isolation. You are 160 kilometers from Sudbury, which means an hour and 45-minute drive to reach a major airport or specialized medical care, combined with annual winter snowfall exceeding 230 centimeters. You trade distance from major metropolitan centers for a detached lakeside home on a modest pension. But if you think a former uranium town is isolated, wait until you see the gold mining enclave further north, where snowmobiles outnumber cars on Main Street. Moving north to number 14, we enter the town of Kirkland Lake in the Temiskaming district of Northern Ontario. Standing on Government Road, you see exposed Canadian Shield bedrock, wood frame bungalows, and massive steel mining headframes towering over the edge of town against a dark spruce forest. Kirkland Lake has a population of approximately 7,700 people, with benchmark home prices averaging $175,000. That is nearly 80% below the provincial average, in a community whose population density sits at 30 people per square kilometer after decades of industrial contraction from its historic peak of 20,000. What distinguishes this town is its legendary Mile of Gold, which produced over 24 million ounces of gold during the 20th century and birthed multimillionaires alongside several Hockey Hall of Fame athletes. Local healthcare is anchored by Blanche River Health's Kirkland Lake site, which maintains 50 beds and a round-the-clock emergency room. Daily life is supported by public and Catholic schools, 2 major grocery stores, local pharmacies, steady mobile service, and provincial snow clearing along Highway 66. The cost reality here involves harsh northern geography. Located nearly 600 kilometers north of Toronto, winter temperatures drop below -30 degrees Celsius for extended stretches, while historical soil contamination from legacy mining tailings remains an ongoing consideration. You are exchanging Southern Ontario convenience for home ownership at a fraction of a typical down payment. Still ahead in this series, we will look at a former Atlantic coal hub where homes sell near ocean waters for under $160,000, and a Saskatchewan grain junction where land is practically given away to keep the main street alive. That brings us to number 13, the community of Glace Bay within the Cape Breton Regional Municipality in Nova Scotia. Walking down its coastal streets, you smell salt air, see ocean waves battering dark cliffs, and pass rows of historic wooden miner cottages along narrow avenues. Glace Bay holds a population of roughly 16,900 residents, with average home prices hovering around $160,000, 60% below Nova Scotia's provincial average price of $410,000. Guglielmo Marconi sent the world's very first wireless transatlantic radio message from Table Head in Glace Bay in 1902, putting this industrial coal town at the center of global telecommunication history. Basic health care is provided locally at Glace Bay Hospital, which houses 30 inpatient beds and an urgent care clinic, though periodic emergency room closures mean residents often make the 20-minute drive to Cape Breton Regional Hospital in Sydney for critical care. The community has local elementary and middle schools, 2 full-sized grocery stores, local pharmacies, strong mobile reception, and reliable winter road clearing. The trade-off here is economic and structural. Damp Atlantic Ocean air accelerates building wear, municipal property tax mill rates under the regional municipality are high, and the local economy continues to rebuild following the historic shutdown of underground coal mining. You trade economic momentum for seaside living at a price point that urban markets erased 30 years ago. Number 12 takes us to the historic city of Miramichi, sitting within Northumberland County in eastern New Brunswick. Imagine standing on the banks of the Miramichi River, watching cold Atlantic water flow past pine-covered shorelines, stone churches, and old timber shipping wharves. Miramichi holds a population of roughly 17,500 people, with a benchmark home price hovering around $210,000, roughly 55% below the national average and well under half of the broader Canadian urban benchmark. This city was forged by the legendary Great Miramichi Fire of 1825, a devastating wildfire that swept through 3 million acres of forest in a single evening, burning entire towns to ash before the community rose again as a lumber and shipbuilding power. Urgent medical care is anchored by the Horizon Health Network's Miramichi Regional Hospital, which operates 82 inpatient beds alongside a full-time, round-the-clock emergency department. Families have access to local Anglophone and Francophone public schools, multiple major grocery stores, local pharmacies, consistent high-speed cell service, and reliable winter plow coverage along Highway 11. The reality of this price point centers on geographic distance and economic transition. You are 2 hours north of Moncton, winters bring relentless coastal blizzards, and legacy heating oil tanks in older homes can cost thousands of dollars to replace or insure. You trade immediate access to a major airport for classic maritime riverfront property at a third of Ontario prices. Can an entire oceanfront property on the Atlantic coastline truly cost less than a standard parking garage in Vancouver? Number 11 proves it can, landing us in the town of Digby, situated within Digby County along the western shore of Nova Scotia. A stroll down Water Street reveals colorful wooden storefronts, floating docks packed with scallop drag boats, and the tide rolling across the Annapolis Basin. Digby has a permanent population of approximately 2,600 residents, with benchmark residential prices sitting at $225,000, nearly 45% below Nova Scotia's provincial benchmark. Celebrated as the scallop capital of the world, Digby operates the largest inshore scallop fleet on Earth, driven by the massive vertical shifts of the Bay of Fundy tides, which rise and fall up to 12 meters twice every day. Healthcare access is anchored in town by the Digby General Hospital, maintaining a primary care clinic and emergency medical services, though emergency room hours are subject to occasional physician coverage closures, requiring a 40-minute drive to Yarmouth Regional Hospital for complex trauma. The town supports an elementary and high school, a superstore grocery market, local pharmacies, stable cellular data, and paved streets salted continuously through winter storms. The catch here is structural isolation and tide-dependent logistics. Driving to Halifax takes roughly 2.5 hours. Damp, salt air accelerates exterior home decay, and property insurance rates reflect high coastal storm exposure. You trade city convenience for world-class maritime seafood culture and harbor views at a fraction of national costs. What happens when a thriving industrial paper mill closes its doors and leaves an entire municipality with modern housing stock and no buyers? Number 10 brings us to the town of Kapuskasing, located in the Cochrane district of northern Ontario. Standing along the Kapuskasing River, you see wide paved streets, concentric circular neighborhood layouts, massive evergreen trees, and the expansive Gothic brick facade of the historic paper mill. Kapuskasing supports a population of roughly 8,200 people, with average home prices sitting around $150,000, more than 80% below Toronto standards. The town was originally constructed as a model planned community by the provincial government, but during the First World War, it served as one of Canada's largest internment camps, holding over 1,200 prisoners in the remote boreal forest. Medical services are delivered by Sensenbrenner Hospital, a 50-bed facility running a full 24-hour emergency department. The community features French and English schools, a Canadian Tire, a Metro grocery store, local pharmacies, solid mobile coverage, and heavy-duty municipal snowplowing that handles over 300 centimeters of annual snowfall. The catch is sheer northern remoteness. Toronto sits 850 kilometers south along Highway 11. Winter temperatures regularly plummet below -35 degrees Celsius, and economic growth remains tied to primary resource markets. You are trading big city thermal comfort and entertainment for a fully detached home with a mortgage under $800 a month. We are 5 entries into our 15-town countdown, and the pattern is unmistakable. Every low price tag in this country is a direct trade against distance, climate, or legacy industrial shifts. Next, we head into the Canadian Prairies, where a former railway hub offers detached homes under $100,000, and an interior British Columbia Valley town defies West Coast price logic entirely. Number 9 brings us into the flat, expansive horizon of the town of Yorkton, sitting within the rural municipality of Orkney in southeastern Saskatchewan. Stand on Broadway Street and you see soaring concrete grain terminals rising above the prairie floor, wide 4-lane avenues and rows of mid-century bungalows surrounded by massive blue skies. Yorkton supports a population of roughly 16,300 residents, with benchmark residential home prices sitting at $190,000, a full 55% below the national average and less than a third of major prairie urban centers. Founded as a colony of agricultural settlers from York County, Ontario in 1882, Yorkton grew rapidly into a regional rail hub, eventually earning national fame as the home of the Yorkton Film Festival, the oldest continuously running film festival in North America. Medical needs across the region are handled by the Yorkton Regional Health Center, which operates 86 beds with a fully staffed 24-hour emergency department and specialized surgical suites. The city serves as a regional commercial hub, featuring elementary and high schools, a regional college campus, major grocery stores like Real Canadian Superstore and Save On Foods, multiple pharmacies, excellent cell coverage, and heavy municipal plows that keep Highway 10 and local avenues clear through intense winter blizzards. The compromise here comes down to climate and geographic distance. Winters in southeastern Saskatchewan bring sub-zero temperatures that regularly drop below -40 degrees Celsius with wind chill, while Regina is a 2-hour drive away along 2-lane highways. You trade extreme winter exposure for a fully detached home in a fully serviced prairie city at a fraction of Toronto or Vancouver costs. Can you still buy a detached home in a scenic British Columbia valley for under $250,000? Number 8 proves it is still possible, taking us to the district of Logan Lake in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District of Interior British Columbia. Standing near the town center, you see dense Douglas fir forests, sharp mountain ridges, clear blue lakes, and quiet cul-de-sacs lined with pine-clad residential properties. Logan Lake has a small population of approximately 2,200 people, with benchmark home prices hovering around $240,000, roughly 65% below British Columbia's provincial benchmark of $780,000. Unlike organic pioneer settlements, Logan Lake was constructed entirely from scratch in 1970 as a planned company town to serve the massive Highland Valley copper mine, which operates today as one of the largest open-pit copper mining operations on the continent. Local health care is provided by the Logan Lake Health Center, which delivers primary care and clinic services, though trauma patients must be transported via a 45-minute ambulance drive to the Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops, a major facility with over 250 beds and a full emergency department. The district contains a public K-12 school, a local grocery market, a pharmacy, reliable cell coverage, and municipal road crews accustomed to mountain snowfall. The reality behind this low price point is industrial dependence and environmental risk. The local economy is tied to copper market cycles, while dense surrounding forests place the municipality at high risk during summer wildfire seasons. You accept mineral market volatility and mountain isolation in exchange for affordable mountain living in British Columbia. Still ahead in our countdown, we will examine a historic prairie coal hamlet where unserviced building lots go for less than $10,000, and an isolated island outport in Newfoundland where oceanfront homes trade for less than a new pickup truck. If you have been tracking these prices and comparing them against your local market, drop a comment below and tell us which trade-off you would actually make. Number 7 takes us into the historic Crow's Nest Pass, specifically the municipality of Coleman, within the municipality of Crow's Nest Pass in southwestern Alberta. Looking down 20th Avenue, you see historic stone storefronts, weather-worn timber miner cabins, towering limestone cliffs, and the massive wall of Mount Crow's Nest framing the western sky. Coleman holds a population of roughly 1,500 people within the broader municipality of nearly 6,000 residents, with average home prices sitting at $215,000, more than 50% below the Alberta provincial average and a quarter of nearby Banff or Canmore figures. Coleman was established as a booming coal mining town in 1903, and its commercial center remains so perfectly preserved that the entire downtown district was designated a National Historic Site of Canada. Emergency and acute medical services are delivered locally at the Crow's Nest Pass Health Center in Blairmore, just 5 minutes down the highway, which maintains 16 active beds alongside a round-the-clock emergency room. The community is served by consolidated regional schools, a co-op grocery store, local pharmacies, solid mobile coverage, and provincial plows that keep Highway 3 open through heavy Rocky Mountain snowfalls. The catch here is structural age and economic limitation. Most properties under $200,000 are century-old miner cottages requiring significant heating and foundation updates, while high mountain winds through the pass routinely exceed 100 kilometers per hour. You trade modern residential square footage and wind exposure for mountain views and immediate access to the Canadian Rockies. Number 6 brings us to the town of Grand Falls-Windsor, located in the central interior of Newfoundland and Labrador. Standing on High Street, you see wide paved avenues, wooden saltbox houses, mature birch trees, and the rushing waters of the Exploits River cutting through the valley. Grand Falls-Windsor supports a population of approximately 13,800 residents, with average benchmark home prices sitting at $175,000, nearly 55% below the national average and under half of St. John's figures. The town was founded in 1905 as a company-owned paper mill settlement to supply newsprint to London newspapers, driven by the hydro potential of Grand Falls, but the historic mill closed permanently in 2009 after more than a century of continuous operation. Healthcare access is strong, centered at the Central Newfoundland Regional Health Center, an acute care facility operating over 100 beds with a 24-hour emergency department and specialized surgical suites. The municipality serves as a regional shopping hub with elementary and high schools, a College of the North Atlantic campus, major grocery stores including Dominion and Sobeys, local pharmacies, complete mobile network coverage, and municipal plowing that keeps local streets and the Trans-Canada Highway open through intense winter snowstorms. The catch here is island geography and energy costs. Flying or taking the ferry off the island requires significant travel planning. Oil heating conversions can run over $10,000, and municipal property tax rates must balance aging industrial infrastructure. You trade island isolation and historic mill loss for a spacious detached home anchored by robust regional hospital services. What if your dream house costs $80,000, but mortgage lenders refuse to write a loan for it? Number 5 lands us in the town of Flin, straddling the border within the northern region of Manitoba. Walk down Main Street and you see granite outcrops sticking out between storefronts, wooden staircases climbing rocky hills, and the massive smokestack of the Hudson Bay mining and smelting facility looming over Ross Lake. Flin holds a population of roughly 4,900 people, with benchmark home prices averaging $85,000, nearly 75% below Manitoba's provincial average figure. The town is famous for being named after a fictional science fiction character, Josiah Flintabity Flonaton, from a 1905 dime novel found by prospectors before they struck rich copper and zinc deposits in 1915. Medical care is delivered locally at the Flin General Hospital, maintaining 20 beds and a 24-hour emergency department, though complex medical procedures require an 8-hour ambulance drive or medical flight to Winnipeg. The town includes elementary and secondary schools, a co-op grocery store, local pharmacies, functional cellular service, and municipal snow clearing for steep rock-cut streets. The catch in Flin is financing and legacy environmental remediation. Major Canadian lenders frequently refuse CMHC-insured mortgages on properties valued below $100,000, while decades of smelting operations left historic soil contamination that requires ongoing monitoring. You trade strict bank financing criteria and northern isolation for home ownership at less than a single year's rent in major metropolitan centers. Number 4 takes us to the historic town of Trail, located in the Kootenay Boundary Regional District of southern interior British Columbia. Looking down from the hillside residential neighborhoods, you see stone retaining walls, classic Italian-style brick homes, dense cedar forests, and the Columbia River flowing beneath the massive zinc and lead smelting complex operated by Teck Resources. Trail has a population of approximately 7,700 residents, with average residential property prices sitting around $295,000, more than 60% below British Columbia's provincial benchmark of $780,000. The town gained international fame through its working-class hockey culture, producing the legendary Trail Smoke Eaters who won 2 World Ice Hockey Championships for Canada in 1939 and 1961. Healthcare is anchored by Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital, a major facility operating over 70 acute care beds alongside a full-time, round-the-clock emergency department and regional specialist clinics. Daily needs are met by local public schools, a Safeway grocery store, local pharmacies, solid cell coverage, and provincial highway crews maintaining mountain pass access through winter. The catch here is industrial air quality and topography. Living downwind of one of the world's largest zinc smelting complexes means air and soil quality are subject to environmental monitoring, while steep street gradients demand heavy winter vehicle maintenance. You trade living near active industrial operations for low-cost property ownership in a mountain river valley. That brings us to number 2, the unorganized community of Ocean Falls, situated within the Central Coast Regional District of British Columbia. Standing on the crumbling concrete docks, you see overgrown rainforest vegetation, decaying brick mill buildings, rain-drenched coastal mountains, and a massive freshwater dam spilling into the ocean inlet. Ocean Falls holds a permanent population of fewer than 50 people, with vacant lots and shell structures occasionally listed for under $30,000. Built in 1906 around a massive pulp and paper mill, Ocean Falls was once a bustling coastal company town of 3,500 residents until the mill closed permanently in 1980, prompting the demolition of most residential streets. There is no hospital, no physician, no school, no commercial grocery store, and no pharmacy. Emergency medical response depends entirely on seaplane flights or Coast Guard transport to Bella Bella or Vancouver, contingent on coastal weather. Cell phone service is non-existent, requiring satellite internet connections like Starlink, and there are no paved highway connections to the rest of the province. The catch in Ocean Falls is absolute logistical separation. You cannot drive a vehicle to this property. Everything must arrive by boat or float plane, and maintaining wooden structures against 4,000 millimeters of annual rainfall requires constant capital expenditure. You trade total civil isolation and zero local services for off-grid oceanfront wilderness under $40,000. Which brings us to the single most dramatic real estate trade in the entire country. An entry where building lots trade for less than a used car, but winter access requires planning for weeks of complete isolation. That final destination sits at number 1. Number 1 takes the top spot because it represents the ultimate extreme of Canadian housing math, a place where full municipal lots trade for less than a used sedan, while sitting directly inside one of the richest energy and resource provinces in the country. That location is the town of Fairview, situated within the municipal district of Fairview, number 136 in the Peace River region of northwestern Alberta. Walk along Main Street and you see brick storefronts, tall grain elevators against open prairie skies, wide avenues, and quiet residential streets lined with mature trees. Fairview supports a population of approximately 2,800 residents, with benchmark residential property prices sitting at $95,000. That figure sits roughly 80% below Alberta's provincial average and less than a seventh of Calgary or Edmonton benchmark levels. Fairview was founded in 1928 when the Central Canada Railway extended its line westward, prompting the entire neighboring hamlet of Waterhole to physically hoist its wooden buildings onto log rollers and drag them 4 kilometers across the prairie to settle beside the new tracks. Local healthcare is anchored by the Fairview Health Complex, which operates 13 acute care beds alongside a full-time 24-hour emergency department and long-term care beds. The town is a robust agricultural service center, featuring elementary and secondary schools, a campus of Northwestern Polytechnic, a co-op grocery store, local pharmacies, reliable mobile network coverage, and municipal road crews that keep local streets and Highway 2 clear through heavy northern blizzards. The catch in Fairview comes down to pure geographic distance and isolation. You are a 5.5-hour drive north of Edmonton. Cold Arctic air masses keep winter temperatures below -30 degrees Celsius for weeks at a time, and local economic activity is bound entirely to regional grain yields and oil field servicing cycles. You trade proximity to major urban centers for a fully serviced, detached home in a stable agricultural community for less than a down payment in southern Alberta. Every ultra-cheap property across this country exists because Canadian real estate capital flows heavily into just 5 major metropolitan corridors, leaving thousands of fully serviced, structurally sound communities sitting at an 80% discount simply because they sit 2 hours beyond the commuter zone. Before buying any property at these price points, you must verify the local realities that listing sites leave out. Lenders often refuse traditional CMHC-insured mortgages on properties under $100,000. Property insurance rates can skyrocket if a house relies on wood stoves or legacy oil heat, and rural emergency departments frequently experience seasonal service disruptions or temporary staffing closures. Is a 2-hour drive to a major hospital or a -30 winter a complete deal-breaker for you? Or is that exactly the price you are willing to pay to eliminate an $800,000 mortgage? Drop your answer in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an honest breakdown of the Canadian housing market. In our next episode, we are uncovering 5 hidden island outports in Atlantic Canada, where oceanfront acreage sells for less than a suburban driveway.